Hey guys, tonight we're going behind the scenes at the North Pole to discover what really happens to Santa's elves once Christmas morning arrives. We'll explore the bittersweet exhaustion that settles over the great toy factory, the ancient Yule Dance tradition, and the quiet melancholy that comes after months of endless preparation. This is a story of weary hearts, warm gingerbread, and the seldom-spoken journey that awaits our beloved workshop helpers in the weeks ahead. So get comfortable tonight, pull those blankets up close, and let your mind drift to the magical world of the North Pole. If you enjoy these cozy holiday tales, please subscribe to Sleepy Holidays for more atmospheric stories that transform cultural traditions into relaxing bedtime narratives. Now, take a deep breath, let your shoulders relax, and prepare to discover the hidden world that exists after Christmas magic has been delivered to every home around the globe. Chapter 1. The Yule Dance's Final Bow. Just past midnight on Christmas morning, the North Pole transforms into something entirely different. The great toy factory, that magnificent hub of ceaseless activity and merry chaos, finally settles into a tranquil silence. Outside, pristine snowfall glitters under the faint northern lights, casting everything in a soft, ethereal glow. The workshop that hummed with countless hammers and cheerful voices now breathes quietly, like a giant finally allowed to rest. The elves move through the empty corridors with a different kind of energy. Now, their footsteps echoing softly against wooden floors, still warm from hours of frantic activity. There's something bittersweet in their movements, a mixture of profound relief and gentle sadness. For months, they've poured their hearts into every toy, every ribbon, every carefully wrapped package. Now, with Christmas delivered, they must face the reality of what comes next, the great emptiness that follows such magnificent purpose. But before the cleanup begins, before the exhaustion truly settles in, there's one final tradition to honor. The Yule Dance, a celebration as old as the North Pole itself, marks the moment when the last toy leaves the workshop. It's a vibrant finale to months of preparation, a joyous explosion of movement and music that echoes through every corner of Santa's domain. Tonight, as always, the elves gather in the great hall, their tired faces brightening with anticipation for this ancient ritual. The music begins softly at first, a gentle melody played on instruments carved from enchanted wood and strung with threads of starlight. Accordion notes blend with the sweet sound of silver bells, while wooden flutes carry tunes passed down through generations of workshop inhabitants. The younger elves begin to sway, their pointed ears perked with excitement, while the older ones smile knowingly, remembering countless Yule dances from years past, each one marking the end of another magical Christmas season. As the music swells, the elves begin their traditional dance, spinning and leaping with movements that tell the story of their year's work. Their colorful caps bob and weave through the air, while their bells jingle in perfect harmony with the melody. Some dance the part of toy makers, their hands mimicking the careful crafting of dolls and trains. Others become reindeer, prancing gracefully around the hall, while still others portray children's joy on Christmas morning, their faces glowing with remembered delight. In the center of this celebration stands Tinsel, the eldest elf in all of Santa's workshop. His silver beard catches the warm candlelight as he watches the younger elves dance, his weathered hands clasped gently behind his back. There's something profound in his expression, a mixture of pride and deep weariness that speaks to decades of Christmas seasons. His eyes, usually bright with mischief and determination, now reflect the bittersweet knowledge that another year of magic has come to its inevitable end. As the dance reaches its crescendo, Tinsel takes a careful step backward, away from the swirling celebration, and into the quieter shadows near the great fireplace. The movement is subtle, almost imperceptible, but it carries the weight of centuries. His shoulders, which have carried the responsibility of countless Christmas miracles, finally begin to sag with the relief of completed duty. The faint sigh that escapes his lips carries with it the aroma of warm gingerbread and weathered spruce, scents that define his very existence. The other elves, sensing their elders' quiet retreat, begin to slow their movements as well. One by one, the dance winds down like a music box reaching the end of its song. The accordion's notes grow softer, the bells ring more gently, and the spinning gradually transforms into swaying, then standing, then silence. In this moment, the full weight of their exhaustion becomes visible, settling over them like a warm but heavy blanket, comfortable yet impossible to ignore. The great hall, moments before alive with music and laughter, now holds a different kind of energy. It's not sadness exactly, but rather a profound quietness that comes after extraordinary effort. The elves look around at each other, their faces flushed from dancing, but marked by the telltale signs of months without proper rest. There are dark circles under their eyes, paint stains on their fingers, and a slight tremor in their movements that speaks to the incredible pace they've maintained since last January. As the silence stretches, the reality of what awaits them begins to sink in. Tomorrow, or rather later today, they must begin the colossal cleanup that follows every Christmas season. Mountains of ribbon scraps need sorting, tools require cleaning and organizing, and every surface in the workshop must be scrubbed clean of sawdust and glitter. The thought should be daunting, but there's also comfort in the familiar rhythm of restoration, in the gentle routine that will carry them through the quiet weeks ahead. Already, the soft scraping of cocoa cups being gathered hints at the approaching dawn routine. Mrs. Claus, ever thoughtful, has prepared warm drinks for every elf, sweet cocoa infused with peppermint, and just a touch of magical warmth that will help ease their tired bones. The sound of ceramic against wood echoes gently through the hall, a comforting reminder that even in their exhaustion, they are cared for, that their incredible efforts are recognized and cherished by those who depend on their dedication. Sleepiness begins to fill the air like a gentle fog, settling over the elves with the inevitability of winter twilight. Yawns appear first among the youngest workshop helpers, then spread through the group like ripples on a quiet pond. Eyelids grow heavy, shoulders relax, and the collective energy that sustained them through months of frantic activity finally begins to ebb. It's a natural surrender, as essential as breathing, and as welcome as the first snow of the season after a long autumn. Outside the great hall windows, the first hints of dawn begin to paint the snowy landscape in soft shades of pink and gold. The northern lights fade gradually, giving way to the natural light that marks the beginning of a very different kind of day at the North Pole. No urgent deadlines await, no frantic toy assembly, no last-minute gift-wrapping emergencies. Instead, there's only the gentle promise of rest, recovery, and the quiet activities that will help heal their weary hearts and tired hands. But even as sleep beckons, even as their bodies cry out for the rest they've denied themselves for so long, there's something else stirring in the depths of their consciousness. A whispered story, seldom spoken but never forgotten, about what happens to elves in January when the world moves on from Christmas magic. It's a tale that waits patiently in the shadows, ready to unfold when the workshop finally falls silent and the real journey begins, the journey of healing, transformation, and rediscovering who they are beyond the season of giving. Chapter 2. Beneath the Shimmer. Unwrapping the cleanup. The first sun rays stretch across the North Pole, painting rosy hues over the endless icy landscape. Inside the workshop, silence has replaced the frenzied energy of Christmas Eve, where once there was bustling activity and jingling bells. Now there's only the gentle whisper of settling dust and the soft crackle of dying embers in the great fireplace. The enormity of the festive fallout becomes clear in the pale morning light. Scattered wrapping paper cascades like colourful snowdrifts across every surface. Ribbons hang limply from chair backs and table edges. Silent sewing machines sit motionless, their needles still threaded with glittering gold. The workshop floor disappears beneath layers of tissue paper, cardboard scraps, and the remnants of a million magical Christmas preparations. Frostia adjusts her cleaning apron with practiced hands. She's witnessed this scene countless times over her centuries of service. A cleaning veteran with silver-streaked hair and knowing eyes, she surveys the chaos with the calm of experience. This is her domain now, the quiet hours after the storm. Her weathered fingers grip her trusted broom handle as she prepares for the monumental task ahead. The scale of cleanup has grown tremendously over the decades. Frostia remembers when Christmas preparations filled just a few rooms. Now the operation spans entire acres of workshop space. Mountains of discarded paper tower like snowy peaks, each pile a testament to the expanding magic of Christmas. The sheer volume would overwhelm lesser beings, but Frostia approaches each mound with methodical determination and ancient wisdom. Her broom begins its rhythmic dance across the wooden floors. Steady whisks echo through the vast space. Swish, sweep, swish. The sound becomes a meditation, a pulse that matches the heartbeat of the North Pole itself. Each stroke removes traces of Christmas magic, clearing space for next year's dreams. The rhythm is hypnotic, soothing, like a lullaby whispered by the workshop itself. In the corners where shadows linger, soot has gathered around the great fireplace. Black smudges tell stories of countless hours when flames roared high, warming the workshop during the coldest preparation nights. Frostia's cloth moves gently over these marks, preserving the memories while restoring cleanliness. Each wipe reveals the deep grain of ancient wood, polished smooth by centuries of Christmas magic. On abandoned blueprints, faint smudges of candy cane stripes create abstract art. Red and white traces mark where tired elves paused to savor sweet treats during long planning sessions. These ghostly impressions speak of dedication and sacrifice, of the countless hours spent perfecting every detail. Frostia carefully lifts each paper, preserving the important designs while discarding the fragments of dreams already fulfilled. Leftover sugary crumbs sparkle like tiny diamonds across workbenches. They catch the morning light, creating miniature rainbows that dance and shimmer. These sweet remnants tell tales of midnight snacks and sustenance during the marathon of Christmas preparation. Frostia's gentle brush sweeps them away, but not without a small smile, remembering the joy these treats brought to weary workers through endless December nights. The silent machines stand like sleeping giants throughout the workshop. Their needles point skyward, still threaded with remnants of velvet, silk, and golden cord. Steam presses cool gradually, their metal surfaces transitioning from warm bronze to silver grey. These loyal servants of Christmas magic rest now, their mechanical hearts slowing to match the peaceful rhythm of post-holiday recovery. Even machines need time to dream. Threads of every color imaginable create a rainbow web across the floor. Emerald green from evergreen ornaments, deep crimson from Santa suits, silver from tinsel work, and gold from gift-wrap trim. Frostia collects each strand with care, knowing that these remnants will be rewoven into next year's magic. Nothing is truly waste in Santa's workshop, only transformation waiting to happen. The wooden floors tell their own story through scuff marks and gentle wear patterns. Countless elf footsteps have traced these paths over centuries, creating invisible highways of dedication and purpose. Frostia's mop glides over these ancient routes, following the familiar patterns worn smooth by generations of Christmas makers. Each board holds memories of laughter, determination, and the quiet satisfaction of work well done. As hours pass, the workshop slowly reveals its true beauty beneath the festive chaos. Clean surfaces emerge like landscapes after snowmelt, showing the elegant craftsmanship of North Pole architecture. Hand-carved details on doorframes become visible again. The natural grain of pine and oak tables returns to prominence. The space transforms from battlefield to sanctuary, ready to nurture next year's Christmas dreams. Frostia pauses in her work, leaning against her broom to survey the progress. Half the workshop now gleams with restored order, while the other half still waits beneath colorful debris. The contrast is striking, chaos and calm existing side by side. She takes a deep breath, inhaling the mingled scents of pine, cinnamon, and the lingering sweetness of candy canes dissolved into memory. The great hearth draws Frostia like a magnet as the day wanes. Embers still glow with gentle warmth, casting dancing shadows on the stone walls. This ancient fireplace has been the heart of the workshop for countless centuries, witnessing every Christmas preparation, every moment of triumph and exhaustion. It offers comfort now, a place of rest and reflection after the storm of festive creation. An old elf sits by the hearth, his beard white as fresh snow, his eyes twinkling with accumulated wisdom. He gestures for Frostia to join him, his weathered hands cradling a steaming mug of cocoa. This is Elderberry, keeper of workshop stories, guardian of traditions that stretch back to Christmas's earliest days. His presence promises tales that will warm the soul like the glowing embers before them. Elderberry's voice carries the gentle cadence of countless stories told before crackling fires. He speaks of clean-up adventures from decades past, of blizzards that buried the workshop in snow, of the year when reindeer wandered inside and created delightful chaos, of young elves who discovered magic in the most mundane moments. His words plant seeds of curiosity about the deeper mysteries of winter at the ethereal North Pole. Chapter 3. Post-holiday lullabies and lat nights. The workshops have fallen silent now, the last sleigh bell fading into winter's embrace. While the world sleeps off their Christmas feast, the elves begin their most sacred time. This is when their true nature emerges, not the bustling toy makers of legend, but gentle keepers of ancient rituals. Tonight we follow young Sparkle through these mysterious post-holiday traditions, discovering the secrets that bloom in winter's quietest hours. Sparkle moves through the empty corridors, her soft slippers whispering against polished wooden floors. The workshop that buzzed with frantic energy just hours ago now breathes with deep tranquility. Moonlight filters through frosted windows, casting silver patterns across abandoned workbenches. Tools rest in perfect rows, hammers and paintbrushes waiting patiently for tomorrow. But tonight belongs to something older, something that predates even Santa's workshop. Tonight belongs to the lullabies. The tradition stretches back centuries. long before red suits and reindeer captured human imagination. When Christmas ends, elves gather their exhaustion like a warm blanket and begin to sing. Not the cheerful workshop songs of December, but low, haunting melodies that carry the weight of winter itself. These post-holiday lullabies serve a purpose beyond comfort. They weave magic into the quiet months, storing energy for next year's impossible deadlines and endless gift lists. Sparkle pauses at the door to the roost, where dozens of mechanical toy birds sleep peacefully on their perches. Their tiny clockwork hearts tick softly in unison, a gentle percussion for tonight's ritual. She carries a small lantern, its warm glow dancing across brass wings and painted feathers. This is her favorite part of the evening, when she becomes storyteller to an audience that dreams of flight. Her voice carries ancient melodies passed down through generations of elves. She begins with a whisper, letting her voice find its rhythm among the sleeping birds. The lullaby speaks of Christmas past, of children's faces bright with wonder, of wishes fulfilled and magic delivered. Each note carries gratitude for another season completed, another year of bringing joy to the world. The toy birds stir gently, their mechanical dreams synchronized with Sparkle's soft melody. Even in sleep they remember their purpose, to bring smiles when opened on Christmas morning. Beyond the workshop walls, the frozen lake calls to her with ancient promises. This is where the true magic happens, where ice becomes canvas for elven artistry. Sparkle wraps herself in a midnight blue cloak and ventures into the crisp winter air. Her breath creates small clouds that dissipate quickly, absorbed by the vast silence of the North Pole night. The lake stretches before her like polished glass, reflecting the waning moon in perfect clarity. Here on the frozen surface, Sparkle and other elves practice their most secretive art. With delicate tools that catch moonlight like silver threads, they carve intricate figurines from the thick ice. Each sculpture tells a story from Christmas past. Children opening presents, families gathering around warm fires, snow falling on quiet villages. The ice preserves these moments, crystallizing human joy into forms that will slowly melt as winter wanes, returning the happiness to the earth. Tonight's creation takes shape slowly under Sparkle's patient hands. A family scene from somewhere in Nebraska. The father lifts a small child to place a star atop their tree, while mother watches with tired but happy eyes. Every detail matters. The way love crinkles the corners of their eyes, how their hands touch with gentle familiarity. These ice figurines aren't just art. They're repositories of the precious moments that make Christmas magical for humans worldwide. As she works, Sparkle hums the old lullabies her grandmother taught her. The melodies weave through the night air, mixing with the gentle scraping of tools against ice. Other elves work nearby, their own sculptures taking shape in the moonlight. Together they create a temporary gallery, dozens of ice figurines catching and reflecting the pale light. Each one captures a moment of pure human joy, preserved in crystal until spring's return, melts them back into the eternal cycle. The waning moon watches over their work, a silent witness to this sacred tradition. As hours pass, the ice figurines multiply across the lake's surface. Children building snowmen, grandparents reading stories by firelight, couples sharing quiet moments under mistletoe. Each sculpture represents countless hours of elven labor, toys crafted with love, wishes fulfilled, magic delivered across the world. The figurines honor this connection, celebrating the joy that makes their endless work worthwhile. When the carving is complete, Sparkle returns to the workshop for the evening's final ritual. The kitchen beckons with promises of warm cocoa and leftover Christmas cookies. This is her favorite solitude, when she can sit quietly and reflect on another season's completion. The hot chocolate steams gently in her favorite mug, painted with tiny reindeer that seem to dance in the lantern light. She nibbles sugar cookies shaped like snowflakes, each one a small celebration. In the kitchen's gentle warmth, Sparkle thinks about the children who received their toys. Somewhere in the world, a little girl is probably cuddling the teddy bear, Sparkle stitched by hand in November. A boy might be building elaborate towers with blocks she sanded smooth and painted bright colors. These late-night snacks taste sweeter knowing their purpose, fueling the elves who make childhood dreams come true. Every cookie crumb represents another small miracle delivered. The workshop's grandfather clock chimes softly, marking another hour in winter's long embrace. Soon dawn will creep across the horizon, bringing another day of rest before preparations for next year begin. But for now, this moment belongs to quiet reflection and gentle rituals. Sparkle saves the last sip of cocoa, letting its warmth linger on her tongue. These simple pleasures sustain the elves through the demanding season, small joys that balance endless giving with necessary receiving. As she prepares for bed, Sparkle checks on the toy birds one final time. They sleep peacefully in their roost, dreaming whatever mechanical dreams might visit clockwork minds. Her lullabies have done their work, weaving comfort through the workshop like invisible threads. Tomorrow the ice figurines will catch new angles of sunlight, reflecting different stories as the day progresses. But tonight's magic is complete, another thread woven into winter's mysterious tapestry. In her small chamber, Sparkle pulls warm quilts up to her chin. Through her window, the ice sculptures gleam like fallen stars across the lake's surface. Each one holds its story safely, preserving human joy in crystalline form until spring's return. The post-holiday lullabies echo softly in her memory, connecting her to generations of elves who sang the same ancient melodies. Sleep comes easily now, carrying her toward dreams of next year's magic waiting to unfold. The workshop settles into deep winter quiet, its wooden beams creaking softly like a ship at anchor. Outside, snow begins to fall again, adding fresh layers to the North Pole's eternal blanket. The ice figurines stand sentinel in the darkness, guardians of captured joy slowly returning to the earth. And somewhere in the sleeping workshop, young Sparkle dreams of birds taking flight, and children's laughter echoing through endless corridors of wonder, until Christmas comes again. Chapter 4. Resilience rolled in snowflakes. The North Pole breathes differently in these quiet weeks, each exhale a crystalline mist that catches the pale light. Here, where the sun plays hide-and-seek behind endless winter clouds, the elves have learned something profound about endurance. Their resilience isn't loud or boastful, it's woven into every careful stitch, every gentle hammer strike, every patient sanding of wooden toys that will never know their makers' names. The workshop settles into its post-Christmas rhythm, a slower dance of repair and renewal. Icy winds whistle through the gaps in the wooden walls, carrying stories of generations past. These same winds tested their grandparents, and their grandparents before them. Each elf carries this legacy in their steady hands, in the way they bend but never break under the weight of endless work and infinite expectations from the world beyond. Festive fatigue settles over the workshop like a heavy blanket of snow, soft but suffocating. Bodies ache from months of 12-hour days, minds grow weary from the constant pressure to maintain perfection. Yet still they rise each morning, boots crunching through fresh powder, breath forming small clouds as they make their way to workbenches that have become extensions of themselves. Their endurance runs deeper than duty, its survival transformed into art. Old Pip, whose gnarled fingers have carved 10,000 rocking horses, shares his secret during the lunch break. The cold doesn't fight you if you don't fight it back. His words drift through the workshop like incense, carrying wisdom earned through decades of winter mornings. The younger elves listen, their faces soft with understanding. They're learning that resilience isn't about being strong, it's about being flexible enough to bend with the storms. Maple speaks quietly of her first winter in the workshop, how the endless cold seemed to seep into her very bones. "I thought I'd break," she whispers, her needle moving in steady rhythm through red velvet fabric. But breaking and bending, they're different things entirely. Her words hang in the warm workshop air like a gentle prayer, reminding everyone that survival often looks like surrender, but feels like strength when you're living it day by day. The camera-shy sun makes its brief appearance, casting long shadows across workbenches cluttered with half-finished dreams. In this golden light, the elves move like dancers in slow motion, each gesture deliberate and graceful. They've learnt to find beauty in the mundane, in the repetitive motions that would drive others to madness. Their hands know these patterns by heart, leaving their minds free to wander through forests of imagination and hope. As evening approaches, a different kind of magic begins, the Snowflake Ritual. This tradition, passed down through countless generations, emerges when the workshop grows quiet and the last tools are set aside. Each elf gathers a handful of the finest snow, the kind that sparkles like crushed diamonds in the lamplight. They work in silence, their breath visible as they shape something precious and temporary, something that holds their deepest hopes. The process is as individual as fingerprints. Some elves weave their snow into delicate spirals, others craft tiny stars or intricate geometric patterns. Birch creates a miniature tree, its branches so fine they seem to tremble with life. Cedar shapes a small house, complete with tiny windows that catch the light. Each charm becomes a vessel, a place to store wishes that are too fragile for ordinary words, too precious for daylight conversations. The frost works its quiet magic, binding hopes into crystalline form. Juniper whispers a prayer for her aching back, watching as her words seem to freeze into the delicate lattice of her charm. Ash dreams of summer warmth, his longing crystallizing into patterns that look like sunbeams trapped in ice. These aren't just decorations, they're promises to themselves, reminders that beauty can emerge from the hardest places, that hope can survive the longest winters. The ritual takes hours. No one hurries this sacred time. Fingers move with the patience of centuries, shaping snow that will soon melt but leaving impressions that last lifetimes. Some charms hold wishes for family, others for relief from pain, still others for the simple joy of a warm meal shared with friends. Each frozen wish becomes a talisman, a reminder that even the smallest hopes deserve to be honored and preserved. By midnight, the workshop glows with the soft light of hundreds of snow charms, each one unique, each one precious. They hang from rafters like captured stars, casting dancing shadows on the wooden walls. The elves work in reverent silence, adding final touches to their frost-woven promises. These charms will accompany them through the coming year, silent witnesses to dreams that refuse to be extinguished by cold or exhaustion, or endless repetition. Rowan holds her charm up to the lamplight, a delicate butterfly with wings so thin they're almost transparent. "For transformation," she whispers, her voice barely audible above the settling sounds of the workshop. Others nod in understanding. They all know about transformation, how ordinary snow becomes art, how exhausted bodies find new strength, how the weight of tradition can become the wings of transcendence when carried with love instead of obligation. The charms serve as more than decoration. They become daily reminders of resilience made visible. When the work grows heavy and the cold cuts deep, an elf might glance up at their frozen wish and remember that they chose this life not because it was easy, but because it was meaningful. Each charm whispers the same message: you are stronger than you know, more capable than you believe, more loved than you realize. As the ritual concludes, Sage gently lifts a single natural snowflake from the windowsill, perfect in its asymmetry, breathtaking in its fragility. She holds it for just a moment before it melts against her warm palm, leaving only a tiny drop of water behind. "Like us," she says softly, and everyone understands. Beautiful, temporary, infinitely precious, precisely because they cannot last forever. This is the wisdom winter teaches. Embrace fragility as strength. The snowflake's brief existence captures something essential about their lives. The delicate balance between duty and dreams, between tradition and individual hope. They live in the space between permanence and melting, creating beauty that may not last but matters deeply while it exists. Their resilience isn't about becoming unbreakable, it's about accepting their own fragility and choosing to shine anyway, like light through ice crystals. The silvery winter cloud of balance hangs over everything, duty and well-being, dancing together like partners in an eternal waltz. The elves understand now what their ancestors knew, that survival isn't about hardening your heart but keeping it soft enough to hold hope. As they settle into sleep, their frost-woven charms catch moonlight through frosted windows, tiny beacons reminding them that resilience and tenderness can coexist in the same gentle heart. Chapter 5. Ermines and Elfin Whispers. There's a certain magic that blankets the North Pole after Christmas, an enchanting hush that settles over everything like the softest down. The frantic energy of December 24th has dissolved into something deeper, something more mysterious. In this quiet time when snowflakes drift lazily past frosted windows and the aurora dances overhead, the most remarkable stories emerge. Stories that few outside the workshop walls have ever heard. Stories of friendship between elves and the wilderness creatures who call this frozen paradise home. Meet Hollyberry, an elf unlike any other in Santa's workshop. While her fellow elves focus on toy repairs and inventory counts, Hollyberry possesses an uncanny gift, the ability to communicate with the Arctic animals that surround their magical home. Her pointed ears seem especially attuned to the subtle languages of the wild, the chittering of Arctic foxes, the deep calls of snowy owls, and the gentle whispers of creatures most elves never notice. Today, she's gathered her favorite stories to share during the workshop's quietest hours. Hollyberry settles into her favorite corner of the workshop, a cozy nook near a window that overlooks the endless expanse of snow and ice. The sound of hammering and sawing echoes softly in the background as other elves work on post-Christmas repairs. She wraps a woolly scarf around her shoulders and begins to speak in her gentle, melodic voice, sharing tales that bridge the gap between the magical world of the workshop and the wild beauty of the Arctic. Her first story begins with a memory from early January. It was during those first quiet days after Christmas, when Hollyberry first encountered the ermine that would change everything. She had ventured outside to collect icicles for Mrs. Claus's winter decorations, her boots crunching through pristine snow that sparkled like diamonds in the pale Arctic light. That's when she spotted a flash of pure white, an ermine moving across the landscape with such grace and confidence that it took her breath away. The small creature paused, as if sensing her presence, and their eyes met across the frozen expanse. The ermine approached with cautious curiosity, its dark eyes bright with intelligence. Hollyberry found herself instinctively crouching down, extending her mittened hand in a gesture of friendship. To her amazement, the ermine began to communicate, not with words but with a series of soft chirps and body movements that somehow made perfect sense to her. It was explaining something about the snow, about paths hidden beneath the surface, about secrets only the wild creatures knew. Hollyberry listened with wonder, her gift allowing her to understand every nuance. The ermine, whom Hollyberry named Whisper, began to teach her the ancient art of snow navigation. Through patient demonstration and gentle guidance, Whisper showed her how to read the subtle signs in the snow, how to find the safest paths across ice that looked treacherous, how to move silently without disturbing the delicate balance of the Arctic ecosystem. Each lesson was a revelation, opening Hollyberry's eyes to a world that existed parallel to the workshop's bustling activity. The wild creatures had their own sophisticated society, their own wisdom to share. As days passed, Whisper introduced Hollyberry to other members of the Arctic community. There was Frost, a snowy owl, whose deep resonant calls could be heard echoing across the tundra during the long polar nights. Frost possessed an ancient wisdom, knowledge passed down through generations of Arctic dwellers. The owl shared stories of the land before the workshop existed, tales of how the first elves had arrived and gradually learned to live in harmony with the creatures already calling this place home. Each story deepened Hollyberry's understanding and respect. Then there were the Arctic fox kits, playful bundles of energy, whose barely audible footfalls created a subtle percussion against the snow. They bounded through snowdrifts with infectious joy, their games teaching Hollyberry about the importance of playfulness, even in the harsh Arctic environment. Their mother, Silver, showed remarkable patience in teaching both her own young and this curious elf about survival, about finding food caches buried deep beneath the snow, about reading weather patterns in the behavior of the aurora overhead. What struck Hollyberry most deeply was the synchrony that developed between the elves and the local fauna. She began to notice how the workshop's rhythms naturally aligned with the patterns of the wild. During the quiet afternoon hours when elves took their tea breaks, the Arctic animals emerged to forage and play. The gentle cooing of snowy owls provided a natural soundtrack to the evening shift changes, while the soft padding of fox feet created a soothing counterpoint to the workshop's mechanical sounds. This harmony wasn't accidental. It was the result of decades of patient coexistence. Hollyberry learned that the first generation of workshop elves had struggled to adapt to Arctic life. It was the native animals who had served as teachers, showing them which berries were safe to eat during summer months, where to find the clearest ice for water, how to predict storms by watching animal behavior. In return, the elves shared their warmth and shelter during the harshest winter months, creating a symbiotic relationship built on mutual respect and understanding. The workshop repairs provided a perfect backdrop to these wildlife encounters. As elves worked to fix toys damaged during Christmas delivery, hammering, sawing and stitching throughout the long January days, the animals offered their own form of assistance. Whisper would alert Hollyberry to incoming weather changes, allowing the workshop supervisors to adjust work schedules accordingly. Frost would hunt mice and other pests that might damage stored materials, keeping the workshop clean and organized without any effort from the elves. The Arctic foxes developed their own unique relationship with the workshop. They seemed to understand the importance of quiet during the elves' most concentrated work periods, timing their playful activities to coincide with break times and shift changes. Their joyful energy provided much-needed levity during the tedious repair work, their antics often drawing tired elves to the windows for a few moments of entertainment. These brief interludes helped prevent the post-Christmas melancholy that could sometimes settle over the workshop community during the darkest winter months. As February approached, the symphony of workshop and wilderness sounds became even more pronounced. The steady rhythm of repair work, the gentle whoosh of wind through snow-laden pine trees, the soft conversations between elves during meal breaks, all blended with the natural sounds of the Arctic. Hollyberry found herself serving as an informal translator, helping her fellow elves understand the messages being conveyed by their animal neighbors. Weather warnings, information about the best times for outdoor activities, even social updates from the extended Arctic community. The relationships Hollyberry fostered became a source of comfort during the long, dark months following Christmas. While other elves might feel isolated by the endless polar night, she found companionship in her wild friends. Whisper would visit daily, bringing news from distant parts of the Arctic. Frost would share philosophical observations about the changing seasons and the cycles of life. The Fox family provided entertainment and warmth, their presence reminding everyone that the North Pole was never truly empty or silent. These interspecies friendships also provided practical benefits that made post-Christmas life more bearable. The animals served as an early warning system for approaching storms, allowing elves to prepare and secure the workshop before harsh weather arrived. They helped locate lost tools that had been buried in snow, their keen senses far superior to elf capabilities. Most importantly, they provided emotional support during the challenging transition from Christmas excitement to winter recovery. Their steady presence, a reminder that life continued beyond the holiday season. As Hollyberry concludes her stories, the workshop settles into its evening quiet. The repairs continue their steady rhythm, but now the sounds seem more harmonious, more connected to the natural world outside. Through her tales, the other elves have gained a deeper appreciation for their Arctic neighbors, understanding that they're part of a larger community that extends far beyond workshop walls. The whispers of ermines, the calls of owls, the gentle footfalls of foxes, all contribute to the magical symphony of North Pole life, carrying them peacefully toward February's promise of longer days ahead. Chapter 6. The Old Toy Tales. Deep within the toy factory's quieter wings, where dust motes dance through amber shafts of light, forgotten corridors stretch endlessly. Here the air holds whispers of countless Christmas mornings past, stories embedded in every weathered floorboard. Abandoned playthings rest in shadowy alcoves, their painted faces bearing the gentle patina of time. Each toy carries within it the laughter of children long grown, the wonder of moments preserved in wood and tin and cloth. Jingles moves slowly through these nostalgic halls, his ancient fingers trailing along dusty shelves. This elderly elf has witnessed decades of Christmas magic, his silver beard now streaked with the wisdom of countless winters. His footsteps echo softly on worn wooden floors, as he pauses before a collection of forgotten marionettes. Their strings hang limp and tangled, but their carved faces still hold traces of the dreams they once embodied, waiting patiently for someone to remember their stories. Among the forgotten treasures, weathered toy soldiers stand in crooked formation, their paint chipped but their posture still proud. Windmen with tarnished gears rest beside music boxes, whose melodies have grown silent. These are not broken toys, they are simply resting, holding their breath for the next chapter of their existence. Jingles understands this patience. He has learned that even the most beloved playthings eventually find their way to these quiet corridors, where memories settle like gentle snow. In a dusty corner behind an overturned rocking horse, Jingles discovers a small tin soldier with one missing eye. The little figure sits propped against a wooden block, his red uniform faded but his remaining eye still bright with purpose. This soldier has stories written in every dent and scratch, tales of brave battles fought on playroom floors, of loyal service in tiny hands, of love that persisted even when perfection was lost. Jingles lifts the one-eyed soldier gently, cradling him in weathered palms. The elf's voice grows soft and warm as he begins to speak, telling the soldier's tale to the listening shadows. This brave little warrior once protected a dollhouse kingdom, standing guard through countless bedtime stories. He fought dragons made of pillow and defended castles built from blocks. His missing eye was not a wound, but a badge of honor, proof of adventures courageously faced. The soldier had belonged to a little girl named Emma, who found beauty in imperfect things. While other children might have discarded a damaged toy, Emma treasured him even more. She would hold him close during thunderstorms, whispering that his missing eye made him special, that he could see things others could not. In her small hands, he learned that love grows stronger when it accepts flaws as features, wounds as wisdom. Years passed like pages turning in a favorite book, and Emma grew beyond the need for toy soldiers. The little warrior found his way to these forgotten corridors, carrying with him the warmth of her acceptance. He had learned that even broken things can be beautiful, that imperfection does not diminish worth. His single eye had seen more love than many toys with perfect sight ever would. This was his greatest treasure, not his uniform or his sword, but his capacity to inspire devotion. Jingles sets the soldier carefully back in his corner. But now surrounded by other forgotten friends, a music box ballerina with a twisted spring, a wooden horse with 3 legs, a doll with tangled hair. Together they form a community of the imperfect, each carrying stories of love that transcended flaws. These toys understand what perfect things never learn, that being cherished despite imperfections creates a deeper, more lasting bond than surface beauty ever could. The elderly elf continues his journey through the toy-lined passages, pausing occasionally to touch a worn teddy bear or straighten a fallen puppet. Each contact carries reverence, recognition of the joy these objects once brought. Time moves differently here in these corridors of memory. Past and present blur together like watercolors in rain. Christmas mornings echo through the years, their laughter still warming the air despite the passage of decades. A grandfather clock in the corner chimes softly, its pendulum swinging with hypnotic rhythm. The sound reminds Jingles of time's gentle persistence, how moments accumulate like snowflakes, each one unique but part of a greater pattern. These forgotten toys have learned time's most precious lesson, that nothing lasts forever, but love leaves echoes that resonate long after its source has moved on. Their scratches and dents are not signs of failure, but evidence of having mattered. From a high shelf, a collection of marionettes watches with painted eyes as Jingles moves below. Their strings may be tangled, but their wooden hearts remember the joy of dance. A windband's gears may be rusted, but he still dreams of spinning in gentle breezes. These toys have discovered that purpose persists even when function fades, that the capacity to inspire wonder survives long after the ability to entertain has dimmed. The corridors seem to whisper stories as Jingles walks tales of midnight adventures, of secrets shared with sleepy children, of wishes whispered into fabric ears and wooden limbs. Each toy became a confidant, a guardian of dreams, a bridge between the world of imagination and the realm of sleep. They learned that their greatest magic was not in their construction but in their capacity to comfort, to inspire, to love unconditionally. As winter deepens outside the factory walls, frost begins to paint delicate patterns on the windows. The cold air carries hints of change, whispers of festivities to come. Jingles feels the subtle shift in the workshop's rhythm, the way energy begins to gather like snow clouds before a storm. The forgotten toys sense it too, a stirring in the air that speaks of celebration, of grand gatherings that honor both memory and possibility. The elderly elf reaches the end of the corridor, where a large window overlooks the factory's central courtyard. Through the glass he can see elves beginning to gather materials, colorful fabrics and twinkling lights, wooden poles and painted signs. The preparations are subtle, but unmistakable. Soon, the coldest days of winter will bring the workshop's most magical tradition, a carnival that transforms the mundane into the magnificent, the ordinary into the extraordinary. Even the forgotten toys seem to sense the approaching celebration. A music box begins to hum a barely audible melody. A marionette's strings sway without any breeze. The one-eyed soldier stands a little straighter in his corner. They remember other carnivals, other celebrations where even the imperfect and forgotten found their moment to shine. Hope settles over the corridor like a gentle blanket, warm and comforting and full of possibility. Jingles takes one last look at his beloved collection of forgotten friends, his heart full of their stories. Tomorrow will bring new tales, new adventures, new opportunities for wonder. But tonight, in these quiet corridors filled with toys who have learned that love transcends perfection, there is peace. The old tales have been remembered, their wisdom preserved, and somewhere in the distance, the first notes of carnival music begin to play, calling them toward new stories yet to unfold. Chapter 7. Frigid Festivities. Carnival in the cold. After weeks of endless cleanup and workshop repairs, something magical stirs in the North Pole air. The elves sense it first, a subtle shift in the wind, a whispered promise carried on snowflakes. Tonight marks the turning point, a sacred pause in their relentless post-Christmas labor. The great snowflake ball approaches, and with it comes respite. Even the most exhausted elf feels their spirit lifting as ancient preparations begin. The workshop transforms as evening falls. Tools are set aside, workbenches cleared of debris. In their place, delicate ice sculptures emerge from storage, each one carved by generations of elves before them. Crystal chandeliers made from frozen teardrops catch the aurora's glow. The air fills with the scent of cinnamon and pine as the elves begin their most cherished tradition, one that connects them to the very soul of winter itself. The snowflake ball isn't merely celebration, it's sacred ritual. Each elf crafts their own dress from freshly fallen snow, weaving patterns that mirror the unique crystals dancing outside. Tiny fingers work with reverent precision, shaping fabric from ice and moonbeams. The dresses shimmer like captured starlight, no two alike. These garments will melt by dawn, but tonight they represent something eternal, the elves' unbreakable bond with winter's harsh beauty. Elder Mistletoe begins the ancient folklore recital, her voice carrying across the transformed workshop. She speaks of the first winter, when elves learned to find warmth not in fire but in each other's company. Her words weave through the air like visible threads, binding past to present. Young elves listen with wide eyes, understanding for the first time why they endure winter's trials, why the cold is not their enemy, but their greatest teacher. The hot cocoa fountains bubble to life, their chocolate streams cascading in perfect spirals. Steam rises like incense, carrying whispers of vanilla and marshmallow dreams. Elves gather in small circles, cupping warm mugs in mittened hands. The contrast is beautiful. Frozen dresses against heated comfort, bitter cold against sweet warmth. Each sip reminds them that even in winter's heart, comfort can flourish. The fountains become gathering points for quiet conversations and gentle laughter. Woolen scarves in jewel tones appear from family chests, each one knitted with love across countless winters. The scarves muffle giggles and whispered secrets as elves wrap themselves in inherited warmth. Grandmother's stitches still hold strong. Father's patterns still bring protection. These aren't merely accessories, their legacy made tangible. Every thread carries memory, every pattern tells a story. The scarves transform individual elves into living tapestries of their people's history. The first dance begins as aurora light spills through frost-covered windows. Green and purple ribbons paint the workshop walls, nature's own disco ball spinning overhead. Elves move in ancient patterns, steps passed down through generations. Their snow dresses rustle like wind through pine needles. Feet barely touch the ground as they glide across ice-polished floors. Each movement honors both celebration and ceremony, joy wrapped in reverence. Partner dances give way to the great spiral, where all elves join hands in one massive chain. They move like a living snowflake, expanding and contracting in perfect rhythm. The spiral draws them closer together, then releases them into individual expression. Children laugh as they're lifted by the motion, while elders remember decades of spirals past. The dance becomes meditation, connecting each elf to their community's eternal heartbeat. Beneath the spectral aurora glow, something shifts in the emotional landscape. The carnival has worked its ancient magic, washing away weeks of accumulated fatigue and frustration. Elves who entered the evening weighed down by endless toil, now move with renewed lightness. Their faces, previously etched with post-Christmas exhaustion, now glow with inner warmth. The ball has reminded them why they choose this harsh existence, for moments exactly like this. As midnight approaches, the ceremonial toast begins. Elder Pinecone raises a crystal goblet filled with liquid starlight, or perhaps just very special eggnog. His voice carries across the hushed workshop as he speaks the traditional words, to winter's gift of patience, to spring's promise of renewal, to the eternal cycle that keeps hope alive. Every elf raises their cup, their voices joining in the ancient response that echoes through generations. The toast awakens something deeper than celebration. It plants seeds of expectancy for spring's distant touch. Not that winter should end, but that it will transform. The elves understand cycles in ways others never could. They've learned that every season of struggle carries within it the promise of renewal. Tonight's warmth will carry them through tomorrow's cold, and eventually, spring will return to their frozen world. Children begin to yawn behind woolen scarves, their small bodies finally succumbing to the evening's magic. Parents gather them close, snow dresses already beginning to soften in the workshop's warmth. But no one minds the melting. Tomorrow there will be fresh snow, fresh possibilities. The snowflake ball teaches them that beauty is meant to be temporary, precious because it cannot last. Each fleeting moment becomes more valuable for its fragility. The aurora's dance reaches its crescendo, painting the workshop in waves of ethereal light. Colors shift from green to purple to gold, as if the sky itself celebrates with them. Elves pause in their dancing to watch nature's grand finale, faces upturned in wonder. Even after thousands of such displays, the aurora still takes their breath away. It reminds them they're part of something magnificent, something far greater than toy-making and Christmas deadlines. As the formal festivities wind down, smaller gatherings form naturally. Friends who've been too busy for real conversation finally reconnect. Stories are shared over cooling cocoa, plans whispered for the quieter months ahead. The carnival has done more than provide entertainment. It's restored their sense of community. Bonds strained by post-Christmas chaos strengthen again. These connections will sustain them through whatever challenges the coming weeks might bring. The workshop gradually returns to peaceful quiet, but a different quiet than before. Where once silence held exhaustion and despair, now it cradles contentment and hope. Snow dresses have melted into puddles that catch aurora light like scattered gems. Hot cocoa fountains slow to gentle bubbling. Woolen scarves hang loose around necks, no longer needed for warmth but kept for comfort. The carnival's gift lingers in every corner. This chapter forms the soft, comforting heart of their winter narrative. The snowflake ball proved that even in the harshest conditions, warmth can flourish. Community can triumph over isolation, celebration over survival. As elves drift toward their beds, still humming dance melodies, they carry tomorrow's strength within tonight's memories. The carnival reminded them of an essential truth. Winter is not their punishment, but their sacred trust. Chapter 8. From Cocoa to Cherry Blossoms. Anticipating Spring. The workshop settles into its quietest hours, as February winds whistle through the rafters. Even the most dedicated elves pause their endless sorting and mending to gaze through frost-etched windows. Winter has stretched longer than usual this year, each day blending into the next like watercolors on wet paper. Yet something stirs beneath the surface, a restless energy that speaks of change approaching slowly but surely. Pepper sits by the great hearth, watching flames dance against blackened stones. Her cocoa has grown cold in her mittened hands as she studies the clouded sun beyond the glass. The light filters through winter's haze like honey through cheesecloth. Pale and distant, she sighs softly, remembering last spring's first warm breeze that carried the promise of melting snow. Her breath fogs the window as she traces invisible patterns, hoping for just one clear glimpse of brightness. In the stockroom, 3 elves hum a melody. None of them remember learning. The tune rises and falls like water trickling over stones, soft and persistent. It speaks of ice loosening its grip, of hidden streams beginning to murmur beneath frozen earth. Their voices weave together naturally, creating harmonies that seem to echo from some deep memory of seasons turning. The song carries through dusty corridors, settling into corners where winter has lingered too long. Juniper pauses in her sweeping to listen, the melody tugging at something warm in her chest. She sets down her broom and closes her eyes, letting the sound wash over her like spring rain. The notes seem to carry scents that haven't graced the workshop in months. Fresh grass, budding flowers, earth awakening from its long sleep. She sways gently, lost in the promise of seasons yet to come, feeling winter's heavy blanket begin to lift. Through the corridors, other elves join the humming without conscious thought. The melody spreads like morning light, touching every corner of the workshop with its gentle insistence. Hammers keep softer rhythm, needles pause mid-stitch. Even the oldest elves find themselves swaying to the ancient tune. It speaks of cycles older than memory, of the earth's faithful turning toward warmth and light. The very walls seem to breathe with anticipation, absorbing the music of change. Minty emerges from her quarters, carrying a worn wooden box, her footsteps muffled by thick woolen socks. She moves with quiet purpose toward the conservatory, where frost-covered windows filter pale morning light. Inside the box, dozens of tiny paper packets rustle softly, each one containing seeds saved from last year's garden. Her green-stained fingers trace familiar names written in faded ink: marigold, basil, sweet pea, each packet holding the promise of vibrant life. The conservatory feels like a cathedral of glass and frost, silent except for the gentle settling of old wood and metal. Minty arranges her packets on a scarred wooden table, each one carefully sorted by planting time and growing needs. Her breath creates small clouds in the cold air as she studies the moon through the clouded glass above. Tonight marks the last full moon of winter, the perfect time for her most sacred ritual of hope and renewal. She selects her first packet, tomato seeds as small as grains of sand, and sprinkles them into a waiting pot of dark soil. Her movements are reverent, each seed placed with the careful attention of prayer. This ritual connects her to generations of elves, who understood the magic of faith placed in sleeping earth. The soil feels cold beneath her fingers, but she knows warmth will come, knows these tiny seeds carry the strength to push through darkness toward light. Packet by packet, she plants her hopes for the coming season. Sweet basil for the kitchen gardens, bright marigolds to line the workshop paths, climbing beans to shade the reading nooks. Each seed disappears into its earthen bed, invisible but alive with potential. Minty whispers old blessings over each pot, words her grandmother taught her, words that speak of patience and trust in the natural turning of seasons, of believing in what cannot yet be seen. The last packet contains her most precious seeds, cherry blossoms saved from a tree her great-grandmother planted decades ago. These seeds are larger, harder, requiring more faith to envision their eventual glory. She places them carefully in special soil, rich with compost and dreams. The cherry tree they might become feels impossible in this frozen place, yet she has seen such miracles before, has watched winter's grip loosen year after year to reveal spring's gentle triumph. As she works, the faint scent of peppermint still clings to her sweater, a lingering reminder of Christmas past. But threading through that familiar fragrance, she catches something else. Something green and hopeful that seems to rise from the very act of planting. It's imagination, perhaps, but she breathes it in deeply anyway, letting it fill her lungs with the promise of growth. Even the greenhouse seems to warm slightly, responding to her faith in seasons yet to come. Outside, snow continues to fall in lazy spirals, but Minty no longer sees only winter's endless white. In her mind's eye, she envisions these same windows framed by cascading pink blossoms, their delicate petals catching morning light like captured sunbeams. She imagines their sweet fragrance mixing with the last hints of holiday spices, creating something entirely new, a bridge between seasons that speaks of endings becoming beginnings, of rest transforming into vibrant life. Other elves begin to gather, drawn by some invisible thread to witness this ancient ritual. They stand quietly in the doorway, not wanting to disturb, but needing to share in this moment of hope. Spruce adjusts his spectacles to better see the neat rows of planted pots, while Holly wraps her shawl tighter against the greenhouse chill. Together they watch Minty complete her sacred work, understanding that this small act carries the weight of their collective longing for spring's return. The humming melody returns, softer now, but no less insistent, as if the very act of planting has awakened something deep in the workshop's heart. The elves sway together, their voices joining in wordless harmony that speaks of patience rewarded, of faith that spans the dark months between planting and harvest. Through the frosted windows, the clouded sun seems to shine a little brighter, as if responding to their shared vision of warmth and renewal, of life stirring beneath winter's surface. Minty steps back to survey her work, dozens of pots now holding invisible promises, seeds that will sleep until warmth calls them forth. The air around her seems different somehow, charged with possibility despite the cold. She closes her eyes and breathes deeply, imagining the moment when these same windows will frame not snow but blossoms, when the lingering peppermint scent of Christmas will dance with cherry blossom sweetness, creating a fragrance that speaks of seasons turning, of hope fulfilled through patient waiting. As the elves disperse back to their evening tasks, they carry with them something lighter than before, a shared vision of spring that makes winter's grip seem less permanent. The workshop settles into comfortable quiet, but it's different now, expectant rather than resigned. Seeds sleep in their earthen beds, cherry blossoms exist only in dreams, but change has been set in motion, subtle as melting snow, certain as the earth's ancient promise to turn toward light once more. Chapter 9. Echoes of Elfin Lore, Ancestors in the Aurora. The workshop had grown quiet in these dormant weeks, but tonight something stirred beyond the frosted windows. Ancient lights began to dance across the Arctic sky, painting the snow in ethereal greens and blues. The elves called them the Ancestor Lights, a celestial ballet that spoke of those who came before. Tonight the Aurora would tell its stories, and the weary workshop dwellers would listen with reverent hearts. In the deepest traditions of elf culture, few things held more sacred meaning than the dancing lights above. These weren't mere natural phenomena to the pointed-eared folk, they were windows into the spirit world, bridges connecting the living to those who had passed into legend. Each shimmer carried whispers of ancient wisdom, each pulse of color bore the heartbeat of generations. The Aurora was their ancestral library, written in light across the endless polar night. Tinsel stepped outside into the crisp night air, his weathered boots crunching softly on fresh snow. The veteran elf had seen countless winters, had witnessed the rise and fall of workshop managers, had crafted toys for children whose children now had children of their own. His silver hair caught the Aurora's glow as he tilted his head skyward. Tonight, the light seemed especially bright, especially welcoming. Tonight, he would speak with the ancestors once more. The Aurora pulsed gently overhead, waves of green and gold cascading like silk curtains in a cosmic breeze. Tinsel closed his eyes and let the ancient light wash over his lined face. He could feel their presence, the master crafters who had taught him to carve, the wise elders who had shared their stories by workshop fires, the friends who had laughed beside him through countless busy seasons. Their spirits lived on in the dancing lights above. In a voice barely above a whisper, Tinsel began to speak their names. Elderwood, who taught him to whittle perfect miniature sleighs. Mistletoe, whose gentle hands had shown him how to paint the finest details on toy trains. Hollybough, who sang while she worked, filling the workshop with melodies that made even the longest shifts feel light. Each name carried weight, carried love, carried the essence of lives well lived in service to Christmas magic. The Aurora responded to each whispered name with fresh waves of color. Bands of blue danced with ribbons of pink. while streams of yellow wove through curtains of green. To Tinsel's trained eye, each hue held meaning: blue for wisdom, pink for compassion, yellow for joy, green for the eternal connection between all living things. The lights weren't just beautiful, they were conversations, dialogues between worlds, bridges spanning the gulf between memory and reality. Other elves began to emerge from the workshop, drawn by the Aurora's unusual brilliance. They gathered quietly around Tinsel, their faces upturned to catch the ethereal glow. Some clutched steaming mugs of cocoa, others wrapped themselves in hand-knitted scarves, but all understood the sacred nature of this moment. This wasn't simply light pollution or atmospheric disturbance. This was communion with those who had shaped their world, their traditions, their very understanding of what it meant to be an elf. Young elves who had never heard these names listened with wide eyes as Tinsel continued his gentle recitation. Sugarplum, who invented the technique for making candy cane stripes perfectly straight. Nutcracker, whose mechanical genius had revolutionized toy soldier construction. Gingerbread, who could bake cookies that stayed fresh for an entire year. These weren't just historical figures, they were the foundation upon which every modern Christmas miracle was built, the shoulders upon which today's elves stood. The Aurora began to shift, forming what almost looked like faces in the swirling light. An older elf named Pine stepped forward, his own voice joining Tinsel's whispered litany. Snowbell, who perfected the art of silent wrapping paper. Jingleberry, whose organizational skills had prevented countless Christmas Eve disasters. Peppermint, who taught generations of elves that quality mattered more than speed. Their names floated on the cold air like prayers, like promises, like love letters to the past. More voices joined the quiet chorus, each elf adding names from their own family histories, their own apprenticeships, their own memories of mentors and friends. The Aurora seemed to grow brighter with each whispered tribute, as if the ancestors were gathering to listen, to acknowledge, to bless. The temperature felt warmer despite the polar wind. The air itself seemed charged with something deeper than electricity, something that spoke of continuity, of legacy, of unbroken chains of craftsmanship and care. Tinsel felt a familiar warmth spreading through his chest. Not the physical warmth of hot cocoa or woolen mittens, but the deeper warmth that came from connection, from belonging, from knowing that he was part of something infinitely larger than himself. The Aurora was more than light. It was memory made visible, love made luminous, wisdom transformed into wonder. It was the very essence of what made the North Pole more than just a workshop. It made it home. As the gathered elves stood in reverent silence, the Aurora began to pulse in rhythm, almost like a heartbeat, almost like breathing. The lights seemed to whisper secrets only pointed ears could hear, sharing techniques lost to time, offering comfort for the exhaustion that followed Christmas, providing guidance for the challenges that lay ahead. This was why they endured the post-holiday fatigue, for moments like these, when the veil between worlds grew thin and wisdom flowed freely. Young apprentices found themselves straightening with new purpose, feeling the weight of tradition settling gently on their shoulders. The Aurora wasn't just honoring the past, it was blessing the future, acknowledging that these tired elves gathered in the snow would someday join the dance of lights above. Their own names would be whispered by future generations. Their own contributions would become part of the great tapestry of Christmas magic that stretched backward and forward through time. Gradually, the Aurora began to fade, its brilliant colors softening to gentle pastels before melting into the star-filled darkness. But the warmth it had kindled in elvish hearts remained, glowing steady and sure. Tinsel smiled, feeling renewed in ways that sleep and cocoa couldn't provide. The ancestors had spoken, not in words but in light, not in commands but in comfort. They had reminded him why the work mattered, why the tradition endured, why Christmas magic was worth preserving. The elves began to drift back toward the workshop, their steps lighter despite the snow, their hearts fuller despite the late hour. They carried with them the Aurora's gifts, strength to face another day of post-Christmas cleanup, wisdom to tackle the challenges of workshop reorganization, and the deep satisfaction that came from knowing they were part of something eternal. The ancestor lights had recharged more than their spirits, they had renewed their very souls. As the workshop door closed behind the last elf, only Tinsel remained outside, watching the final traces of Aurora fade into memory. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new tasks, new reasons to remember why they chose this life of service. But tonight had been about more than work. It had been about magic itself. And as he finally turned toward the warmth of home, Tinsel knew that soon, very soon, they would discover just how deep that magic truly ran. Chapter 10. Sprinkles of Magic. Reawakening the Workshop. The waning winter moon casts silver threads through frosted workshop windows, where ancient magic stirs once more. After weeks of silence and stillness, the elves gather in the pre-dawn darkness. Their breath forms small clouds as they approach the dormant toy-making machines, knowing that tonight, everything changes. The cyclical dance of seasons demands awakening, and they are ready to answer magic's gentle call. Elder Thornwick emerges from his quarters, carrying a chest worn smooth by countless seasons. The ancient oak creaks softly as he sets it down among the gathered elves. Inside, scrolls of parchment hold secrets passed down through generations. Each spell written in delicate script, each enchantment a bridge between past and present. The fatigued elves lean closer, their tired eyes reflecting hope, as starlight begins to fade into dawn's embrace. The first scroll unfurls with a whisper, revealing words in the ancient elven tongue. These are not mere instructions, but living poetry that breathes purpose into metal and wood. Each symbol glows faintly in the candlelight, as if remembering its own power. The elves form a circle around the silent machines, their voices joining in harmonious murmurs. The enchantments begin, soft as snowfall, ancient as the North Pole itself. Whispered words drift through the workshop air, carrying magic like invisible threads of light. The elves speak in unison, their voices weaving spells learned from childhood songs. Each enchantment holds the memory of countless seasons, countless toys brought to life. The machines remain still, waiting, listening, but something subtle shifts in the atmosphere, a tingling sensation that promises transformation. Magic gathers, patient and persistent, ready to flow once more. A gentle hum begins, so soft it might be imagination. But the elves know better, their pointed ears attuned to magic's first stirrings. The largest gear shifts just a fraction, releasing decades of stillness with the gentlest sigh. Steam begins to form in tiny wisps, rising from pipes that have slept through the winter. The workshop awakens, not with thunder or fanfare, but with the tender breath of ancient enchantment finding its voice. Gears begin their slow dance, metal kissing, metal in perfect rhythm. The sound is music to elven ears, a symphony of purpose returning. Each machine remembers its role, its place in the grand design. Conveyor belts stretch and yawn, assembly arms flex like fingers awakening from deep sleep. The workshop fills with mechanical lullabies, gentle churning and soft clicking that speaks of toys waiting to be born. Elder Thornwick closes his eyes, feeling the pulse of reborn magic flowing through copper pipes and wooden beams. This moment never loses its wonder, this bridge between seasons, between ending and beginning. The younger elves watch with growing smiles as their workplace transforms from tomb to cradle. Hope blooms in their hearts like spring flowers, promising that their purpose has returned, that their skills will matter once again. Steam puffs from chimney stacks in gentle clouds, carrying with it the scent of possibility. The workshop's heartbeat grows stronger, more confident with each passing moment. Pulleys begin their ancient dance, lifting and lowering in perfect coordination. The elves feel their own energy returning, their post-holiday exhaustion melting away like snow in sunshine. Magic flows through everything, connecting machine to elf, past to future, dream to reality. Belinda adjusts a copper valve, her movements sure, despite weeks of rest. The machine responds with grateful purrs, ready to craft dolls with flowing hair and painted smiles. Nearby, Jasper tests a whittling blade against seasoned pine, the wood curling away in perfect spirals. Each elf finds their rhythm, their connection to tools and magic and purpose. The workshop becomes a living thing, breathing with collective intention and renewed hope. The enchantments settle into place like familiar blankets, wrapping each machine in protective warmth. Ancient spells remember their purpose, flowing through gears and springs and delicate mechanisms. This is heritage made manifest, generations of elven wisdom guiding modern hands. The connection between past and present strengthens with each turning wheel, each puff of steam, each gentle hum of machinery coming alive under starlight's fading blessing. A paint mixer begins its slow rotation, colors swirling like liquid rainbows. Red mingles with gold, blue dances with silver, creating the palette of childhood dreams. The sight brings tears to weary eyes, tears of relief and gratitude. The cyclical nature of their existence becomes clear. Endings are merely pauses, rests between movements in an eternal symphony of giving. The workshop awakens, and with it, their hearts. Magic twinkles in the air like scattered stardust, visible only to those who know how to look. Each spell creates ripples, waves of energy that touch every surface, every tool, every dream waiting to take shape. The elves breathe deeply, filling their lungs with enchanted air. They feel connected, not just to their work, but to something greater, something timeless, something that makes their labor sacred rather than merely seasonal. The transformation spreads like morning light, slow but inevitable. Workbenches that seemed cold and lifeless now hum with potential energy. Tools that lay gathering dust now gleam with purpose. The very air shimmers with possibility, thick with the scent of sawdust and paint, and dreams taking form. Each machine becomes a partner, each tool an extension of elven hands and hearts and ancient wisdom passed down through countless generations. Elder Thornwick returns the scrolls to their sacred chest, their work complete for now. But the magic they've awakened will continue flowing, strengthening with each passing day. The elves stand quietly, watching their workshop bloom back to life. Steam rises, gears turn, and hope fills every corner of the vast space. They are no longer tired workers facing endless months, but artists preparing to create miracles once again. The seasonal cycle completes another turn. Winter's end, promising spring's beginning. But here in the North Pole, seasons mean something different, something deeper. They mark the rhythm of giving, the endless dance between rest and creation. The workshop pulses with renewed life, ready to nurture dreams and shape wonder. Magic swirls through every beam and bolt, blessing the sacred work that lies ahead. As dawn breaks fully over the North Pole, the transformation is complete. The workshop breathes with mechanical life, purrs with contentment, hums with purpose. The elves take their positions, no longer exhausted workers but renewed artisans. Magic has done its work, bridging the gap between ending and beginning, between despair and hope. The toy-making season begins anew, blessed by ancient spells and timeless love, ready for another year of miracles. Chapter 11. Visions of Velvet, Dreams of a Red Christmas. Spring's gentle arrival brings an unexpected transformation to the North Pole workshop. Where once exhausted elves dragged themselves through cleanup routines, now there's a subtle quickening in their steps. The air carries hints of renewal, fresh pine mingling with the familiar scent of peppermint oil. Workbenches that sat empty and cold now gleam with possibility. Something magical stirs in the quiet corners where creativity has been sleeping through winter's long rest. Elderberry the seamstress runs her weathered fingers across bolts of crimson velvet that arrived with the morning supply sleigh. The fabric shimmers like liquid fire under the workshop's amber lighting. She can already envision Santa's new coat taking shape, the careful stitching, the golden buttons that will catch moonlight on Christmas Eve. Her workstation transforms from winter's sparse functionality into spring's abundant promise. Each thread she selects whispers stories of joy yet to unfold across the world. At the toy design station, Peppercorn spreads fresh parchment across his desk with reverent care. His charcoal pencil moves in gentle strokes, sketching the outline of a rocking horse with flowing mane. The drawing emerges slowly, deliberately, each curve bringing childhood dreams closer to reality. Around him, other designers lean over their own creations. Whispered conversations float through the air like snowflakes, ideas taking flight, imagination awakening from its winter slumber, dreams beginning their annual dance toward December's magic. In the workshop's eastern corner, ancient machinery begins its slow awakening. Gears that have rested in silence for months emit soft sighs as they stretch into motion. The great clockwork heart of Christmas production stirs, bronze cogs catching light, brass pipes humming with awakening steam. Chief Engineer Nutkin adjusts pressure gauges with practiced precision, his movements reverent as a musician tuning a beloved instrument. The mechanical symphony builds gradually, promising the thunderous creativity that will soon fill every corner of their magical realm. Young apprentice Jingleberry discovers a forgotten crate behind the ribbon storage. Inside, spools of silver thread gleam like captured starlight, each strand holding memories of past Christmas miracles. She lifts one carefully, feeling the weight of countless wishes woven into its fibers. These threads have adorned gifts that brought tears of joy, wrapped presents that mended broken hearts, secured packages that carried love across impossible distances. Now they await another chance to bind the world together with wonder. The scent of hot cocoa drifts from the break room, where veteran elves gather around scarred wooden tables. Tinsel Foot shares the story of Christmas 1952, when a blizzard nearly prevented takeoff, but Santa's determination carried them through. Voices grow soft with reverence as they recall children's faces illuminated by morning light, discovering gifts that seemed impossible just hours before. Steam rises from their mugs like incense, carrying prayers of gratitude for the privilege of serving such pure magic year after year. Workshop supervisor Mistletoe notices the change in his team's posture, shoulders no longer sagging with January's exhaustion, eyes bright with renewed purpose. The post-Christmas malaise has lifted like morning fog, revealing the eternal truth that lives in every elf's heart. They aren't just toy makers, they're weavers of wonder, architects of joy, guardians of childhood's most sacred dreams. Spring reminds them that their work transcends mere craftsmanship, they're custodians of the world's most precious magic, and their season approaches once again. Red wool cascades across Snowbell's cutting table, like a waterfall of Christmas dreams. Each strand holds the promise of cozy stockings, warm mittens, and scarves that will wrap children in love on cold December nights. Her scissors move with surgical precision, creating patterns that will soon become comfort incarnate. The wool's texture speaks of distant sheep grazing in meadows touched by morning frost, of shepherds who understand that their work contributes to magic they'll never fully comprehend, but somehow sense in their hearts. In the pottery studio, Clay Hands shapes his first vessel of the new cycle, a simple mug that will hold cocoa for a child's first snow day. His wheel turns with meditative rhythm as spring light filters through frosted windows. The clay responds to his touch like an old friend, yielding to pressure while maintaining its essential strength. This humble cup will witness confidences shared between siblings, comfort offered during nightmares, and the quiet contentment of families gathering around kitchen tables on December evenings. The woodworking shop fills with the sweet perfume of cedar shavings as Chipwood tests his tools on fresh lumber. Each plane stroke reveals the golden heart hidden within bark's rough exterior, much like Christmas reveals the golden hearts hidden within the year's rough experiences. His chisel moves with practiced confidence, carving the foundations of toy trains that will carry children's imagination to places where anything remains possible. The wood grain tells stories of storms weathered, seasons endured, growth achieved through patient persistence. Apprentice Bellhop discovers a hidden workshop journal from decades past, its pages yellowed with age but wisdom still fresh as morning snow. Previous generations of elves documented their techniques, their innovations, their moments of pure inspiration when solutions appeared like gifts from nowhere. Reading these entries connects him to the unbroken chain of craftsmen who've devoted their lives to this sacred work. Their spirits seem to whisper encouragement across the years, reminding him that he joins something infinitely larger than himself. Mrs. Claus appears in the doorway, her presence bringing instant warmth to the awakening workspace. She moves between workstations like a gardener, tending beloved plants, offering gentle suggestions, sharing memories of children's letters that arrived throughout winter. Speaking of Santa's growing excitement as departure day draws nearer, her voice carries the authority of someone who's witnessed countless Christmas miracles, yet she speaks with the wonder of someone experiencing magic for the very first time. Hope follows in her wake like perfume. The fabric storage room reveals treasures accumulated through months of careful acquisition. Silks from distant markets, cottons soft as cloud wisps, velvets rich as midnight sky. Each material carries stories of its origins, fields where cotton grew under patient sun, mulberry groves where silkworms spun their dreams, sheep whose wool will warm hearts across the world. Fabric keeper Hemstitch runs reverent fingers across each bolt, feeling the potential joy woven into every thread by hands that understand the sacred nature of their contribution. Evening settles over the workshop like a gentle blanket, but activity continues in pockets of golden lamplight. Elves work with renewed passion, their movements flowing like water around familiar obstacles. Conversations weave between workstations, ideas shared, techniques compared, dreams given voice in the safety of friendship. The atmosphere thrums with creative energy building toward crescendo, like an orchestra tuning. Instruments before a performance that will touch hearts across the globe. Magic gathers itself for another magnificent display. In the design archives, Sketchpad discovers blueprints from Christmas past, plans for toys that brought wonder to children now grown, parents themselves, perhaps grandparents sharing stories of magical mornings. These yellowed papers document dreams made manifest, wishes transformed into reality through patience and skill. Each drawing represents a moment when impossible became inevitable, when hope took physical form, and traveled the world in a sleigh, pulled by reindeer who understand that some kinds of flying require faith rather than physics. As spring's transformation reaches completion, the workshop hums with quiet anticipation. Red thread glints in lamplight, sketches cover every surface, and machinery purrs with readiness for the great work ahead. Elves move through their routines with renewed purpose, not the frantic energy of December's final weeks, but the steady confidence of craftsmen who've found their rhythm again. The long journey toward Christmas has begun anew, and every heart beats in synchrony with the eternal promise that joy will find its way to every corner of the world. Chapter 12. Harmony in Hyperactivity, Gathering Momentum. The workshop stirred with renewed purpose as winter's grip loosened around the North Pole. What had been weeks of quiet recovery was transforming into something more urgent, more alive. Elves moved through the corridors with lighter steps, their conversations peppered with excited whispers about next year's possibilities. The air itself seemed to hum with anticipation, carrying the scent of fresh wood shavings and the distant sound of hammers finding their rhythm once again. In the design workshop, Pip spread out sheets of parchment across the worn wooden table, each one sketched with toy concepts that had been brewing in her mind during the quiet weeks. Her fingers traced the lines of a mechanical dragon that could breathe glittering snow, while beside her, Jingle worked on blueprints for a dollhouse with rooms that changed seasons at the turn of a tiny key, their creative energy flowing like warm honey through the crisp air. The supply depot buzzed with methodical activity as inventory lists were checked and rechecked. Sacks of rainbow-colored thread stood in neat rows beside barrels of gleaming buttons, while shelves groaned under the weight of polished wood planks and sheets of shimmering fabric. Nutmeg climbed ladders to count spools of golden wire, her voice calling out numbers that echoed through the cavernous space, each count bringing them closer to readiness for the year ahead. Outside the workshop windows, the first hint of spring touched the Arctic landscape. Patches of earth emerged from beneath the snow like dark promises, and in the greenhouse attached to the main building, Elder Willow tended to her collection of mystical flowers. These weren't ordinary blooms, they were the oracle petals, whose patterns of opening would reveal the trends children would crave 11 months from now. She moved among them with reverent care, whispering ancient elvish blessings. The tradition of the oracle petals stretched back generations, passed down through whispered stories and careful observation. Each flower held a piece of the puzzle. The sunset tulip revealed color preferences, while the laughing lily indicated which toys would bring the most joy. Elder Willow watched for the smallest signs. A petal unfurling clockwise meant mechanical toys would be favored, while counterclockwise suggested something softer, more nurturing. The elves gathered around her each morning, hungry for these glimpses into tomorrow's magic. Back in the main workshop, restoration efforts continued with peaceful determination. Broken workbenches were mended with care, their surfaces smoothed until they gleamed like moonlight on fresh snow. Tools that had grown dull during the Christmas rush were sharpened to perfect points, while the great furnace was cleaned and prepared for another year of melting metals and warming hearts. Each repair was made with love, knowing these surfaces would soon cradle the dreams of children everywhere. Holly found herself drawn to the music room, where instruments hung in silent rows along the walls. Her fingers traced the strings of a tiny harp, coaxing soft notes that seemed to awaken the other instruments. Soon bells chimed gently, drums whispered their rhythm, and flutes sang lullabies that drifted through the workshop like invisible threads, weaving the elves' individual efforts into something harmonious. Music had always been the heartbeat of their work, and now that heartbeat was growing stronger. Conversations bloomed throughout the workshop like flowers in Elder Willow's greenhouse. Elves shared ideas over steaming mugs of cocoa, their voices creating a comfortable hum that mixed with the sounds of gentle labor. Ginger described her vision for dolls that could teach languages, while Sage sketched plans for books whose pages turned by themselves, reading stories aloud in voices soft as summer rain. Each idea sparked another, creating chains of creativity that stretched endlessly forward. The sense of community deepened as elves naturally formed working pairs and small groups. Those skilled in woodworking taught others the secrets of grain and joint, while expert seamstresses shared techniques for stitches so small they seemed made by fairy fingers. Knowledge flowed freely, creating bonds that strengthened not just their craft but their fellowship. In the North Pole's endless winter, they had learned that cooperation wasn't just helpful, it was essential for keeping the magic alive. Elder Willow emerged from the greenhouse at midday, her eyes bright with discovery. The oracle petals had begun their first significant bloom of the season, and their patterns spoke of fascinating trends ahead. She gathered the workshop leaders around her weathered table, pointing to delicate purple petals arranged in spirals. This meant children would crave toys that moved in unexpected ways, toys that surprised and delighted with their unpredictable magic. The elves leaned forward, absorbing every detail. The revelation about spiral patterns sent waves of excitement through the design teams. Pip immediately began sketching tops that spun in impossible directions, while Jingle envisioned music boxes that played different melodies depending on how they were wound. The challenge energized them, Creating predictably unpredictable toys would require all their skill and imagination. They worked with focused intensity, their hands moving as if guided by the same mysterious force that made the oracle petals bloom. As afternoon light filtered through frost-covered windows, the workshop's rhythm reached a perfect balance between urgency and patience. No one rushed, yet everyone moved with purpose. Hammers rang in steady beats, needles flashed in precise patterns, and paintbrushes swept colors across surfaces with the grace of dancers. This was the harmony in hyperactivity, the sweet spot where energy and calm merged into something greater than either could achieve alone. The elves had found their collective flow. Mutual support wove through every interaction like golden thread through fabric. When Cinnamon struggled with a particularly complex mechanism, 3 elves appeared at her elbow with gentle suggestions and steady hands. When Frost worried about meeting his quota of hand-carved soldiers, his neighbors quietly took on extra tasks to give him breathing room. They had learned from their post-Christmas exhaustion, success meant lifting each other up, not pushing each other down. Together, they were invincible. The day's energy began to shift as evening approached. But rather than fading, it transformed into something deeper and more sustainable. Conversations continued over shared dinners of warm bread and honey, while hands continued their gentle work by the light of softly glowing lamps. This wasn't the frantic pace of December. This was the steady, determined progress of those who knew their destination and trusted their path. The momentum they were building would carry them through whatever challenges lay ahead. As the workshop settled into its evening rhythm, Elder Willow made one final check of her oracle petals. New blooms had appeared, tiny white flowers with centers that shimmered like captured starlight. She smiled, recognizing the sign. These flowers meant hope, not just for the success of next year's Christmas, but for the journey itself. The path ahead would have its difficulties, but the elves were ready. They had found their balance, their purpose, and most importantly, each other. The chapter drew to a close with the workshop humming in perfect harmony. Not the silence of exhaustion, but the gentle buzz of collective purpose. Tools were cleaned and set aside with care. Designs were rolled and stored with reverence, and the great furnace was banked to glow warmly through the night. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new discoveries, new opportunities to transform dreams into reality. But tonight, the elves rested in the satisfaction of momentum gathered and magic rekindled. Chapter 13. Tales of Toy-Making, Rekindling the Workshop. As spring's gentle warmth kisses the North Pole, something magical stirs within the great workshop walls. The long winter's rest is ending, and with it comes the quiet anticipation of renewal. Sunlight filters through frosted windows, casting golden beams across workbenches that have waited patiently through the sleepy months. The air itself seems to hum with possibility, as if the very workshop is taking its first deep breath after a long, peaceful slumber. The elves move with gentle purpose through corridors that echo with centuries of craftsmanship. Their footsteps are soft whispers against worn wooden floors, each step a reminder of the countless generations who have walked these same paths. Tools rest exactly where they were left months ago, waiting like old friends for familiar hands to lift them once more. The workshop remembers everything, every laugh, every creation, every moment of joy that has filled these sacred spaces with warmth and wonder. Skills passed down through countless generations begin to stir within weathered hands. Elder elves stretch fingers that remember the precise curves of rocking horses, the delicate stitching of teddy bears, the intricate mechanisms of music boxes. These are not mere talents but sacred inheritances, whispered secrets of creation that flow from one generation to the next like gentle streams. Each elf carries within them the wisdom of their ancestors, ready to breathe new life into silent workshops once again. One by one, the great machines begin their slow awakening. Gears that have rested in peaceful stillness start to turn with soft, rhythmic clicks. Steam rises gently from long-dormant boilers, creating wisps of white that dance through the morning light. The workshop's heartbeat returns, steady, comforting, promising. Each mechanical breath echoes with the memory of countless toys brought to life, and the anticipation of countless more dreams yet to be fulfilled in the months ahead. In the doll-making corner, precision reigns supreme. Master craftsman Cornelius runs his fingers along smooth wooden limbs, feeling for the slightest imperfection with eyes closed. His workspace is a symphony of tiny tools, brushes no thicker than eyelashes, paints mixed to match the exact shade of childhood wonder, fabrics softer than clouds. Every doll that emerges from his gentle hands carries a piece of his soul, destined to become someone's most treasured companion through countless bedtime stories. The magical gadget division buzzes with creative energy as spring awakens imagination itself. Tinkerer Willow examines blueprints that seem to shift and change as she watches, designs that exist somewhere between dream and reality. Her creations defy explanation. Kaleidoscopes that show memories instead of patterns, snow globes that whisper lullabies, music boxes that play the songs of sleeping hearts. Each gadget is born from pure wonder, crafted to remind children that magic is always just within reach, waiting patiently. Every elf brings something irreplaceable to the workshop's gentle symphony. Jasper's gift lies in understanding the secret language of wood grain, coaxing beauty from every knot and curve. Melody hears the song hidden within metal, shaping instruments that will carry childhood melodies for generations. Felix weaves stories into fabric, each stitch a word in tales yet to be told. Together, their individual talents create something greater, a harmony of craftsmanship that transcends any single skill or creation. The workshop atmosphere grows thick with comfortable concentration. As familiar routines return, soft conversations drift between workstations like gentle breezes, punctuated by the quiet sounds of creation, sandpaper whispering against wood, needles dancing through cloth, paintbrushes caressing miniature faces. The air smells of sawdust and possibilities, of beeswax and dreams taking shape. This is where miracles happen quietly, one careful moment at a time, in the loving hands of artisans who understand the sacred nature of their calling. Each craft demands its own rhythm, its own meditation. The rocking horse carvers move with flowing motions, their chisels following ancient patterns passed down through generations of gentle hands. Thread workers hum softly as they weave, their melodies becoming part of the fabric itself. Metal shapers pause between each hammer strike, listening to the song the metal sings back to them. Time moves differently here, measured not in minutes but in moments of perfect creation, when heart and hand work as one. The seasonal transition brings its own gentle magic to the workshop floors. Spring light mingles with the warm glow of work lamps, creating an atmosphere that feels both eternal and newly born. Windows that were frosted with winter's breath now reveal glimpses of green emerging from beneath melting snow. The workshop itself seems to stretch and yawn, awakening from its peaceful rest with the contentment of a job well done and the anticipation of joys yet to come. Renewal fills every corner. The creation of the season's first toy begins with ceremony and reverence. Elder Bramble approaches his workbench with the gravity of someone about to birth a dream. His hands hover over raw materials for a long moment, feeling for the perfect piece that will become something magical. The workshop grows quiet around him, other elves pausing in their work to witness this sacred beginning. This first toy will set the tone for all that follows, carrying within it the hopes and promises of another Christmas season. Collaboration flows like a gentle river throughout the workshop spaces. No toy is ever the work of just one elf. Each creation passes through many loving hands, each artisan adding their own special touch. A wooden horse receives Jasper's careful shaping, Melody's silver bells, Felix's velvet saddle, and Willow's touch of moving magic. The toy becomes a testament to their unity, carrying within its form the combined love and skill of an entire community dedicated to bringing joy to children everywhere. Mastery reveals itself not in grand gestures, but in countless small perfections. The way Aurora's needle finds exactly the right spot for a button eye, how Sage's brush strokes bring life to painted cheeks with just the perfect blush of color, the gentle precision with which Ember fits tiny gears together, creating mechanisms that will delight children for years to come. Each moment of expertise is a quiet victory, a reminder that true craftsmanship lives in the details that only loving hearts notice. The workshop finds its rhythm, as days blend into one another with comfortable familiarity. Morning light brings renewed energy to tired hands. Afternoon shadows provide gentle reminders to pause and appreciate the beauty taking shape. Evening lamplight creates intimate circles of concentration, where the most delicate work unfolds. Each day builds upon the last, creating a symphony of productivity that feels both purposeful and peaceful. The workshop breathes with the steady rhythm of artisans who have found their calling. A deep sense of fulfillment settles over the workshop like warm blankets on cold nights. Elves who have spent months in quiet rest now remember why they do what they do. Every carved surface, every stitched seam, every painted detail carries within it the promise of a child's wonder. The first completed toys of the season sit proudly on display shelves, silent testimonies to skills renewed and purposes reclaimed. The workshop has remembered itself once again, and joy fills every corner. As this chapter draws to its gentle close, the post-holiday period finally releases its hold on the North Pole. The workshop has successfully transitioned from winter's rest to spring's renewal, from recovery to creation, from silence to the soft symphony of craftsmanship. The elves have rekindled not just their tools and machines, but but their sense of purpose and joy. The long months ahead stretch before them like an open book, pages waiting to be filled with countless tales of toys brought lovingly to life. Chapter 14. Doodles and Daydreams, Wisps of Christmas. In the quiet weeks that follow the great Christmas rush, something magical happens in the workshop's forgotten corners. The elves discover pockets of wonder tucked between the ordinary tasks of cleanup and repair. Here, where sawdust still carries hints of pine and cinnamon, tired hands reach for scraps of parchment. They begin to sketch impossible toys, creations that exist only in daydreams and gentle wishes. Pip draws a rocking horse with wings that shimmer like aurora light. His pencil moves slowly across weathered paper, each stroke deliberate and dreamy. The horse's mane flows like winter wind, and tiny bells dangle from its bridle, ready to chime melodies that only sleeping children might hear. Around him, other elves pause their sweeping to admire his work, their own imaginations stirring with memories of toys they've always wanted to create. Nearby, Willow sketches a music box that plays snow, each flake a tiny note that dances through the air before melting into silence. Her drawing shows intricate gears made of crystallized starlight, and a ballerina carved from winter moonbeams. She adds delicate swirls to represent the melody, wondering aloud if children ever dream of toys that sing with the voice of December nights. Her fellow elves nod knowingly, lost in their own creative reveries. The workshop takes on a different rhythm during these peaceful interludes. Hammers tap more gently, as if keeping time with daydreams. Brushes move across wooden surfaces with the same tender care used for sketching impossible wonders. Even the wind outside seems to whisper softer, as though respecting this sacred time of imagination. The elves move like sleepwalkers through their tasks, their minds floating between reality and the beautiful impossibilities they've drawn on paper. During their afternoon tea break, the elves gather around the old wooden table, their doodles spread like a patchwork quilt of dreams. They share stories of their favorite Christmas memories, not the grand deliveries or proud moments of toy completion, but the quiet instances that touched their hearts. Nutmeg speaks of a child who left cookies shaped like tiny elves, each one wearing a different colored hat, as if she somehow knew their individual personalities. Cinnamon's eyes grow distant as she remembers Christmas morning in a small cottage, where a grandmother wept with joy over a simple wooden doll. The doll had taken months to carve, each tiny detail a labor of love, and watching that moment of pure happiness unfold had filled Cinnamon's heart with warmth that lasted the entire winter. She traces her finger along her latest sketch, another doll, this one with wings made of pressed flower petals. The stories flow like honey from a warm spoon, each memory sweeter than the last. They speak of children who talk to their toys as if they were alive, of families who gathered around presents not for their value but for the love wrapped within each carefully chosen gift. These moments remind the elves why they endure the exhaustion and chaos, for these precious fragments of human joy that make every aching muscle and sleepless night worthwhile. As afternoon light filters through frost-covered windows, casting rainbow prisms across their workspace, the elves return to their gentle labors with renewed spirits. Their doodles now serve as inspiration, turning mundane repair work into acts of artistic expression. A broken sled becomes a canvas for painted snowflakes. Cracked ornaments are mended with golden thread, creating beautiful scars that tell stories of Christmas past. Every task becomes an opportunity for small acts of creative magic. In the quieter moments between tasks, some elves close their eyes and let their minds wander to next Christmas. They imagine new toys that might bring even more joy, new ways to surprise and delight children around the world. These daydreams feel like prayers, whispered hopes that drift upward with the workshop's perpetual stream of wood smoke. The air itself seems to shimmer with possibility, as if their collective imagination might manifest into something real and wonderful. Sage discovers an old sketchbook tucked behind a dusty shelf, filled with drawings from Christmases long past. The pages reveal generations of elven creativity, toy designs that never made it to production, whimsical inventions that existed only in imagination, and portraits of children from decades ago, their faces bright with Christmas morning wonder. She turns each page reverently, understanding that she holds a treasury of dreams, a legacy of love and imagination passed down through countless Christmas seasons. The afternoon grows longer as winter days do, stretching time like taffy until minutes feel like hours. The elves don't mind this gentle pace. It allows them to savor each small moment, each shared smile, each perfectly placed brushstroke on a toy that will soon bring someone joy. They work with the patience of artists and the dedication of poets, understanding that true magic isn't rushed but cultivated with care, attention and infinite love for the craft. As evening approaches, The workshop fills with the golden glow of lanterns and the soft sound of pencils scratching across paper. The elves have begun a tradition of collaborative doodles. One starts a drawing, and others add their own touches, creating impossible creatures and magical scenes that belong to no single imagination, but emerge from their collective creative spirit. These shared artworks hang from the rafters like prayer flags, celebrating community and creativity. In a forgotten corner of the workshop, where dust motes dance in slanted sunbeams, an old advent calendar hangs unnoticed on the wall. Its tiny doors have been closed since December ended, but now they serve a different purpose. Behind each door, an elf has tucked a small drawing, a written wish, or a pressed flower, creating a secret countdown to the next Yule season. Only they know about this hidden ritual of hope and anticipation. The calendar becomes their private promise to themselves, and to each other, that no matter how tired they become, how overwhelming the work grows, they will always find time for wonder. Each small treasure hidden behind those miniature doors represents their commitment to preserving the magic, not just for children, but for themselves. It's a reminder that even elves need to nurture their sense of wonder if they hope to share it with the world. As the day draws to a close, the elves gather their doodles and sketches, some to be kept as personal treasures, others to be shared with fellow workshop dwellers. The drawings capture more than just imagination. They preserve this peaceful interlude between seasons, this breath of calm before the next wave of Christmas preparations begins. These simple artworks become talismans against exhaustion, reminders of joy that they can carry through even the busiest times ahead. Tonight, as they tuck their sketches safely away and blow out the workshop lanterns, the elves feel lighter somehow. The doodles and daydreams have worked their gentle magic, reminding everyone that creativity and joy aren't luxuries to be saved for special occasions. They're daily necessities, as essential as breath itself. Tomorrow will bring new work, new challenges, but tonight they rest knowing that wonder lives in the smallest moments, waiting patiently to be rediscovered. Chapter 15. Twilight's Farewell, the final winter night. The workshop has grown quiet now, the last echoes of Christmas bells fading into memory. Outside, snowflakes drift lazily past frosted windows, each one catching the amber glow of lamplight. The ancient hearth crackles to life, flames dancing higher as more elves shuffle in from the corridors. Their workshop aprons hang loose now, paint-stained and worn from months of creation. Tiny hands reach toward the warmth, fingers still carrying traces of glitter and ribbon. The fire's glow paints their cheeks a rosy red, washing away the pallor of long winter days spent bent over workbenches in the dim workshop light. Juniper settles into her favorite spot by the stones, her silver hair catching the firelight like spun starlight. Beside her, Nutkin yawns deeply, his pointed ears drooping with fatigue. One by one they form a gentle circle around the hearth, each elf finding their place in the familiar rhythm of winter's end. The warmth seeps into their bones, melting away the ache of countless hours spent crafting dreams for distant children. Someone produces a kettle of spiced cider, steam rising with the scent of cinnamon and clove. Wooden mugs are passed from hand to hand, each one worn smooth by generations of winter gatherings. The first sip brings soft sighs of contentment, warming them from within as the fire warms them without. Outside, the wind whispers through the pine trees, a lullaby for the slowly settling workshop. Muffled laughter begins to bubble up from the circle, quiet and warm like honey stirred into tea. Pippin shares a tale about a particularly stubborn Jack-in-the-Box, his animated gestures casting dancing shadows on the wall. The story grows in the telling, each elf adding their own flourish, until reality and imagination blur together in the firelight. These are the moments they treasure most, when work becomes memory. Twinkle pulls out her knitting needles, clicking a gentle rhythm that harmonizes with the crackling logs. Others follow suit, some mending torn mittens, others simply letting their hands rest in their laps. The air grows thick with shared stories, tales of children's letters that made them smile, of gifts that took extra love to perfect. Each memory floats between them like smoke, precious and ephemeral. The youngest elves lean against the older ones, their eyelids growing heavy in the warmth. Grandmother Sage begins to hum an ancient melody, one that speaks of seasons turning and cycles completing. Her voice weaves through the crackle of flames, a thread connecting this moment to countless winter nights before. The song has no words, only the deep knowing that comes with surviving another long, beautiful winter. Flickerwick rises slowly, his joints creaking like old floorboards. From a hidden alcove, he produces a bottle of elderberry wine, saved for just this moment. The deep purple liquid catches the light, promising warmth and dreams. He pours carefully, each cup receiving just enough to chase away the last chill of winter. The elves watch with reverent silence, understanding the ritual's sacred nature. They raise their cups together, a constellation of small hands holding liquid starlight. No words are needed, each elf understanding the toast's meaning. To another winter survived, to toys delivered safely, to the magic they've helped weave across the world. The wine touches their lips, sweet with the taste of summer berries, and the promise of seasons yet to come. Outside, snow continues its gentle fall. As they drink, silent vows form in their hearts, promises whispered to the flames. They vow to keep the Yule spirit burning bright, to carry its warmth through the quiet months ahead. They vow to remember the joy in children's eyes, the satisfaction of perfect stitches and smoothly turning wheels. Most importantly, they vow to find each other here again, when next winter's work is done. The fire begins to settle, flames lowering to glowing embers that pulse like a sleepy heartbeat. Eyelids grow heavier, heads nodding toward shoulders in the universal dance of approaching sleep. Whispered conversations fade to murmurs, then to the soft breathing of those already dreaming. The workshop's stone walls hold the warmth, cradling the elves like a mother's arms around sleeping children. Shimmer speaks softly about spring, about seeds waiting beneath the snow, and flowers dreaming of sunlight. Her words paint pictures of renewal, of workshop windows thrown open to fresh breezes and garden plots ready for planting. The other elves listen with closed eyes, letting her gentle voice carry them toward tomorrow's possibilities. Even in winter's deepest hour, spring lives in whispered hopes. One by one, they begin to drift away, some to dormitories, others to small cottages scattered through the pines. They move like sleepwalkers, guided by habit and the pull of soft beds. A few linger by the dying fire, unwilling to let this perfect moment end. The embers cast their faces in gentle amber, preserving the memory of this last gathering until next year's call. The great hall grows quiet, save for the whisper of settling ashes and the distant sigh of winter wind. A single ember pops, sending tiny sparks up the chimney like wishes released to the stars. The remaining elves pull blankets close, their breathing synchronizing with the fire's gentle rhythm. Soon, even their whispers fade, leaving only the peaceful silence of well-earned rest. Outside, the North Pole sleeps under its blanket of snow, workshops and dormitories tucked safe beneath winter's gentle hand. The aurora dances across the star-filled sky, painting the snow in shades of green and gold. Inside, dreams begin to bloom, filled with summer gardens, laughing children, and the quiet satisfaction of another season's magic, successfully shared with the world below. The fire's last breath becomes a gentle sigh, carrying with it the essence of this final winter night. In their dreams, the elves gather round imaginary hearths, sharing stories that haven't been told yet, toasting seasons still to come. The cycle completes, winter surrendering to the promise of spring, weariness transforming into the sweet anticipation of rest. Until next year, until the magic calls them once again.